I want you to just imagine your daily commute for a second. You know the exact stretch of road I'm talking about.
Oh, everybody has one.
Right. You're sitting there, you're boxed in by this sea of red taillights, your coffee is getting cold, and you are just inching forward.
It is the worst feeling.
It really is. And as you stare at the bumper right in front of you, intuition tells you that the solution is incredibly obvious, right? Like if the city would just build one more shortcut or, if they would just add one more lane, traffic would finally flow smoothly.
It makes perfect sense on paper.
Exactly. More pavement equals more space, which naturally equals a faster drive. But what if the math actually proves the exact opposite?
Yeah, it is a deeply counterintuitive concept.
Right.
But the reality is that adding extra capacity to a network, specifically when the people using that network are, well, acting selfishly to find the fastest route, it can actually slow down overall traffic flow.
And that mind-bending reality is the topic of today's deep dive. We are looking at this phenomenon known as Brace's paradox.
It's a fascinating one.
It really is. And we've got a great stack of sources in front of us today. We are pulling from the original 1968 mathematical theories of German mathematician Dietrich Brace. We're looking at some complex algorithmic game theory analyses, and we're diving into real-world urban planning case studies from Seoul, San Francisco, and Boston.
And the implications of these sources, I mean, they completely upend a century of traditional traffic engineering. They challenge our most basic assumptions about how networks operate.
So our mission for this deep dive is to decode this complex paradox without using, a whiteboard full of complicated math. We are going to explain the traps of human selfishness and reveal how city planners across the globe are fixing urban gridlock by deliberately doing the unthinkable, which is destroying major freeways.
Which just sounds so backwards.
It does. Okay, let's unpack this.
Right, so to understand why destroying a road can actually speed up your commute, we first have to understand the mathematical trap we fall into every single time a new road is built. And to do that, we have to look at the original paradox introduced by Dietrich Brace back in 1968.
Let's set the stage for you. So imagine you have 4,000 drivers. They're all trying to get from a start point to an end point.
And to get there are two separate but entirely equal routes. You can go the north route, or you can take the south route.
Both routes are a combination of some fast highway driving and then some slower local streets.
Exactly. And because human beings are generally rational actors when it comes to their own time, the traffic on those two routes naturally balances out.
Right. So about 2,000 drivers take the north route and 2,000 take the south route.
Yeah, the system reaches a state of balance. So in this scenario, let's just say the commute takes exactly 65 minutes for every single driver.
Okay, 65 minutes. I mean, not great, but predictable.
Right. But then the city planners look at the map and say, well, we can improve this.
As they always do.
As they always do. So they build a brand new, hyper-fast shortcut straight down the middle, connecting the north route and the south route.
It's like an incredible piece of engineering.
Oh, totally. The travel time on this shortcut is essentially 0 minutes. It's this magic teleportation highway.
Okay, so a 0-minute shortcut, that sounds amazing.
But this is where the paradox begins. Because drivers act in a way that prioritizes minimizing their own personal travel time, they immediately spot the shortcut.
Naturally.
The very first driver to use it sees their commute drop from 65 minutes down to 40 minutes.
Wow, so that seems like a massive win for that specific driver.
It is, I mean, temporarily. But they aren't the only one who sees it, right?
Oh, sure.
Soon, every single one of those 4,000 drivers realizes that incorporating this 0-minute shortcut into their route is mathematically the absolute fastest option.
So they all just completely abandon their balanced routes and flood the shortcut.
Exactly. And what happens when 4,000 cars try to squeeze into the exact same sequence of roads to access that one shortcut?
Massive, crippling congestion.
You get it. The bottleneck is so severe that the commute time for everyone just balloons. It goes from the original 65 minutes up to 80 minutes.
Wait, 80 minutes? But why don't they just go back?
That's the thing. Here is the true trap of Brace's paradox. You might think, well, if it takes 80 minutes now, I'll just go back to the old original route.
Right. That's what I would do.
But you can't. Because of the way the traffic is shifted, if one single driver tries to abandon the shortcut and take the old way, the congestion on that specific path now makes their commute 85 minutes.
Oh, wow. So you are actively punished for trying to go back to the way things were.
Yes. Everyone is trapped in an 80-minute commute because taking the alternative is actually worse.
So we've literally built a brand new road, spent all this money, and it cost everyone an extra 15 minutes of their life.
It's completely wild.
Let me try to put this into an analogy to really make it click for everyone. Imagine you are at a massively crowded buffet restaurant.
Okay, I'm with you.
There are 2 long lines for food, and everyone has figured out that it takes about 10 minutes to get your plate no matter which line you choose. That's our 65-minute commute.
Right, the balance system.
Yeah. Then, management suddenly wheels out a brand new, glorious dessert table right between the 2 lines. It's the shortcut.
Naturally, chaos ensues.
Complete chaos. Every single person in the restaurant abandons their current spot and rushes the dessert table. Now, nobody's getting their food any faster because there's this massive mob bottlenecking the whole restaurant. It's taking 20 minutes to get anything. But nobody's willing to step out of this new mob and go back to the regular buffet line, because if they do, they lose their spot and it'll take even longer. You were just stuck.
I like the buffet analogy for understanding that feeling of being trapped. But a traffic network is actually much weirder and more destructive than a simple bottleneck.
How so?
Well, in a buffet, the dessert table just sort of crowds the middle of the room. Brace's paradox. The shortcut actively pulls capacity away from the efficient path. The new road changes the fundamental topology of the network itself. It forces cars into shared segments of the road that simply weren't designed to handle 100% of the volume.
So the road physically breaks the system.
Exactly. What you're describing with that feeling of being trapped at the buffet is actually a core concept in game theory called a Nash equilibrium.
I've heard that term thrown around. That's from the mathematician John Nash, right?
Yes, exactly. A Nash equilibrium is a state where no individual in a system has any incentive to change their strategy, assuming everyone else keeps their strategies the same.
Right. So everyone's just locked in.
Yeah, it acts like a massive multiplayer prisoner's dilemma. In a Nash equilibrium, the selfish optimization of the individual actively degrades the overall system.
Wow.
And algorithmic game theory tells us that a traffic system stuck in a Nash equilibrium can be dramatically worse. In fact, under certain linear conditions, it is mathematically proven to be at least 4/3 worse than a socially optimal system where, say, a central controller dictates who goes where.
Whoa, stop right there. Time out. What?
Linear conditions. I thought our mission was to avoid complicated math.
Fair.
What does 4/3 worse under linear conditions actually mean for the person sitting in their Honda Civic right now?
That's a fair point. Let's break that down without the jargon. Linear latency, or linear condition, just means that as more cars get on a road, the travel time increases at a steady, predictable rate.
Okay, that makes sense.
Every new car adds, let's say, 1 second of delay. Now, if a central computer could perfectly assign routes to everyone like chess pieces, it would keep the network flowing beautifully.
But we don't have that.
Right, because we don't have a central computer and we all act selfishly, we fall into the Nash equilibrium. The math shows that this selfish, uncoordinated behavior makes the total commute at least 33% longer. That's the 4/3 part than it needs to be.
That is just fascinating. So the drivers or the buffet diners are making the smartest possible choice for themselves in that exact millisecond.
Yes.
But by doing so, they collectively ensure the worst possible outcome for everyone else. That's exactly it. What's fascinating here is that individual selfishness actively fights against the optimal flow of the whole system.
But let me push back on this a little bit.
Go for it.
Because if you're listening to this in your car right now, you might be thinking, well, I use a navigation app. I use Waze or Apple Maps. Surely those algorithms are smart enough to route us around this 1968 math problem, right?
You would think so.
Don't those apps constantly self-correct the system?
It's actually the complete opposite. Those apps are the ultimate engines of Brace's paradox.
Wait, really?
Oh yeah, they don't coordinate the system at all. They ruthlessly optimize for the individual. They are executing a mathematical concept known as best response dynamics.
Best response dynamics. I'm assuming that just means finding the quickest route.
In essence, yeah.
Yep.
Imagine you were looking at a map of this traffic network, and you can measure its energy.
Energy, like electricity.
In this context, energy isn't electricity. It's the total strain or the total travel time of every single driver combined. It's basically the collective pain of the commute.
Ah, got it. The collective pain.
Exactly. So best response dynamics is an algorithm that simulates how drivers behave.
Yeah.
At every single step of this algorithm, a driver or, their GPS app looks at the map and finds their best response.
Which is just a slightly better route.
Right. They find a route that shaves a minute or two off their own personal trip.
Okay, but I'm struggling with the mechanism here. If I switch lanes or take a side street and I save a minute, the total travel time of the system, what you're calling the energy that should go down, right?
It seems like it should.
So how do we optimize ourselves into a wall?
This is the absolute crux of the issue. You have to separate your private gain from the public cost.
Okay.
Let's say you use your app to find a clever side street. You save 2 minutes. For you, the energy went down.
Right, happy.
But your car just joined a smaller road, adding 3 seconds of delay to the 50 cars already on that road.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Your private action saves you 2 minutes, but it secretly added a combined 2.5 minutes of delay to the rest of the network.
Wow, so the app isn't looking at the total health of the city's traffic, it's only looking at me.
Exactly. And the algorithm repeats this process over and over. Millions of drivers, constantly shifting to save a few seconds, imposing these tiny invisible taxes on everyone else.
Death by 1,000 cuts.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Because everyone is seeking lower energy for themselves, the mathematics dictate that the algorithm must eventually halt. It stops when no single driver has a better option available to them.
And that's when it settles into that Nash equilibrium.
You got it.
Man. Wait, so if the math proves we systematically trap ourselves with extra roads, how on earth do planners fix it? Do they just take the roads away?
Yes. The solution to this mathematical paradox is to do the unthinkable: tear down the highway.
Okay, the math might make sense on paper, but realistically, you cannot just blow up a major urban highway to fix this. People would completely lose their minds.
They absolutely do.
If you tried to pitch that to a city council, the assumption would be apocalyptic gridlock, like where do the cars go?
That is the exact reaction most people have. To see how it actually plays out, we need to look at the real-world evidence.
Okay, let's look at the evidence.
Take yourself to Seoul, South Korea, in the year 2003. We're looking at the Cheongashin Restoration Project.
Yeah, looking at the source notes on this, the scale is just staggering. They targeted this massive transportation corridor right through the heart of the city.
Massive is an understatement.
We are talking about a 10-lane surface road sitting right underneath a 4-lane elevated highway. 14 lanes of traffic carrying over 170,000 vehicles every single day.
And originally, that highway was a symbol of modern progress for South Korea following the Korean War. But by the early 2000s, it had become a noisy, congested, heavily polluted nightmare.
Yeah, 14 lanes will do that.
It divided neighborhoods and just choked the city center. So the Seoul metropolitan government made an incredibly controversial decision.
Which was?
They decided to completely demolish the entire 14-lane structure and restore a historic stream that had been buried underneath it.
But 170,000 cars have to go somewhere. If you just delete a 14-lane artery, those cars are going to spill over and paralyze every single side street for 20 miles in every direction.
But the doomsday gridlock never happened. Instead, urban planners witnessed a phenomenon known as traffic evaporation.
Evaporation? I'm sorry. Cars don't just vanish into thin air.
Yeah.
Explain the mechanism there. How does traffic evaporate?
It's not magic, it's just human adaptation. Remember Brace's paradox?
Yeah.
That 14-lane highway was the giant 0-minute shortcut we talked about earlier.
Oh, right. The dessert table.
Exactly. It was a massive magnet pulling cars from all over the city into one localized bottleneck because everyone's best response dynamics told them to go there.
So when they took it away...
When the highway was removed, corridor traffic plummeted by an incredible 70%. Furthermore, the volume of traffic passing through the entire city center dropped by 9%.
Because they physically couldn't take the shortcut anymore, so what did the drivers actually do?
The system was basically forced out of its terrible Nash equilibrium. People stopped taking unnecessary crosstown trips because the perceived easy route was gone.
They just stopped driving as much.
Yeah, they combined errands. Some people chose to travel at different times of the day to avoid rush hour entirely.
What about public transit?
That was the biggest shift. They changed their mode of transit. Bus ridership spiked by 15.1%, and subway ridership went up by 3.3%.
Wow. If we connect this to the bigger picture, you're saying that by removing the road, the city forced people to stop making the selfish, suboptimal choice that was choking Seoul in the first place?
Precisely. By eliminating the central magnet for congestion, traffic was forced to distribute more evenly across the local surface-level street grid.
Like diffusing the pressure.
Yes. A surface grid acts like a sponge, absorbing and routing cars in a highly dispersed way, whereas a highway acts like a funnel, jamming everyone into one tight spot.
That makes a lot of sense.
The math of Brace's paradox was completely reversed in real life. The city actually reduced overall car journey times across all of Seoul.
So, what does this all mean for you, the listener? How does this translate beyond just a single project in South Korea?
Well,
Because tearing down freeways doesn't just correct the mathematical flow of traffic. Looking at these sources, it fundamentally heals the environment and breathes life back into the urban landscape.
it really does. And it raises an important question about modern urban planning. For decades, the mid-century philosophy was fast mobility for some, meaning engineering cities, to move cars as quickly as possible from the suburbs to the downtown core.
Right, the era of the mega highway.
Yeah. But now we are seeing a shift toward a philosophy of slow accessibility for all.
And the case studies here in the US are just as dramatic as Seoul, and they show exactly how that philosophy works in practice.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's look at San Francisco, the Embarcadero. For decades, it was this massive double-decker freeway spur that basically cut the city off from its own waterfront.
It was just a concrete wall of noise and exhaust.
Exactly. And after it was heavily damaged in the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake, the city made the bold choice not to rebuild it. They tore it down and replaced it with a surface-level, multi-use boulevard with a streetcar line.
The results were transformative, and it's vital to understand how the surface boulevard achieved this.
Right, the diffusion.
Exactly. When you have a massive elevated freeway, cars can only enter and exit at very specific, concentrated ramps. This creates intense, localized traffic jams.
The bottlenecks again?
A surface boulevard, on the other hand, intersects with dozens of cross streets. It diffuses the traffic naturally.
And it changed the whole neighborhood.
By removing that physical and psychological barrier, the city opened up the waterfront. The data shows it led to a 51% increase in local housing units, a 23% growth in jobs, and property values in the corridor actually tripled.
It's not just an economic win, though. It's a massive quality of life win. You see the exact same mechanism in Boston with the removal of the central artery.
Oh, the big dig.
Yes, the famous Big Dig. For anyone who didn't live in Boston before the 2000s, they had this elevated green monster of a highway that literally cast shadows over entire neighborhoods.
It was famously awful.
They tore it down and put the traffic in underground tunnels. And beyond removing an aesthetic eyesore, it created over 45 new parks and public plazas where the highway used to be.
That's incredible.
But get this, it saved travelers an estimated $168 million annually in travel time alone.
Wow.
Again, because local traffic could actually distribute itself intelligently on surface roads instead of being trapped in the old highway's off-ramp bottlenecks. Plus, city carbon dioxide levels dropped by 12%.
These examples just demonstrate that massive concrete highways dividing neighborhoods, creating dark, dirty underpasses, and pumping fine particulate matter into the air, they are not a necessary evil of urban life.
Right. If you are listening to this right now, sitting in your car or walking down your city street, it means that the conventional wisdom we've all been sold about traffic is fundamentally flawed.
It really is.
When you see a massive freeway slicing through your downtown, you shouldn't assume it's solving your traffic problem. In many cases, it is actively making your commute worse.
Removing these structures forces a systemic reset. It improves public health by significantly reducing exposure to respiratory irritants like tire dust and exhaust.
Which is huge.
It encourages physical exercise by making walking and biking infrastructure viable. And it physically reconnects communities that were artificially isolated by walls of concrete.
We've covered an incredible amount of ground today. We started with the deeply counterintuitive math of Brace's paradox, where building a 0-minute shortcut miraculously ends up costing everyone an extra 15 minutes of their life.
And we explore the invisible trap of best response dynamics, learning how our individual desire to shave just 2 minutes off a commute imposes a collective penalty on the entire network, locking us into that Nash equilibrium of gridlock.
And we traveled to places like Seoul, San Francisco, and Boston to see how courageous urban planners are applying this paradox in the real world.
Which is still so cool to see.
By tearing down major freeways, they aren't creating apocalyptic gridlock. They're evaporating traffic, dispersing cars across more resilient surface grids, speeding up overall commute times, and building greener, wealthier, more connected cities.
It challenges our baseline assumptions about cause and effect. It proves that in complex systems, adding more capacity absolutely doesn't equal more efficiency.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. I want to leave you with one final mind-expanding idea from our sources today.
Oh, this is the best part.
Because Brace's paradox isn't just about cars on a road, it's a fundamental law of network topology.
It applies to almost any decentralized network where individuals or particles are choosing a path of least resistance.
In 2012, scientists at the Max Planck Institute found this exact same phenomenon in power grids.
That's right.
They discovered that adding a new transmission path for decentralized energy can paradoxically reduce the efficiency of the entire electrical grid, causing power to bottleneck just like commuters on a highway.
Biologists have even suggested it applies to endangered food webs.
Wait, really? Food webs?
Yeah. In a collapsing ecosystem, selectively removing a doomed, struggling species might actually be the intervention that saves the rest of the food web from a cascade of extinctions.
That is just nuts. So think about your own life. Think about your workplace, your social networks, your daily routines.
We are so conditioned to believe that adding more is the answer.
More connections, more shortcuts, more apps, more tasks, that it's the only way to improve. But where else might removing a connection actually be the secret to saving the entire system?
That's a powerful question.
It's definitely something to ponder the next time you find yourself boxed in by red taillights, inching forward, wishing they would just build one more lane.